Thanks, Michael. So I'll be brief with the background. I appreciate both you guys coming on this call to listen to me talk about the business. It's been an interesting journey, and so I originally had gotten into this business because I was just trying to scratch that side hustle itch that I had. I started in finance, in retail banking, then brokerage, and then asset management. And when I was at T. Rowe Price, I had moved from TD Ameritrade to Merrill Lynch to T. Rowe Price, and I kept wondering why, I never felt comfortable where I was. And I thought maybe if I had a side business that would scratch that entrepreneurial itch and it would be fine. And I could keep on with my career in finance because I had a master's of business administration and a master's of science in finance. And so I was pretty invested in my career in finance. I'd gotten a couple of securities licenses, the 766, 63, and some insurance stuff, so I could do variable annuities for small business owners. And I had no intention of really leaving my job at T. Rowe Price, but I thought that maybe if I got a side business, I would stop having that wandering eye and go from firm to firm. And so I was looking at businesses that I felt were manager-centric, but not skilled manager-centric. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I wanted a business that if your key employee went sick or your key employee went down, then you would still have continuity in the store. And so there's a lot of businesses out there where your key employee, if they're sick or they're on vacation, you just shut down, or you have to go in yourself. And because I wasn't intending on leaving my business or my career in finance, I wanted something that I wouldn't have to use PTO to work at my side job or whatever, or my side business. And so I looked at a few different concepts. The oil change business was interesting because I viewed it as a quasi utility. Everybody that drives an internal combustion engine needs an oil change. It's part of routine maintenance. So it is a residual business. And then on top of that, it's a sticky business. So once you get someone into your shop and you do a good job, they're more likely to just become part of the routine and come back to you. So I found an elderly couple in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They were just looking to retire from the industry, and I was able to take over their shop. I spent a lot of time on Yelp. At the time was still relevant, and I kind of reverse engineered the negative reviews on Jiffy Lube and just kind of looked at, what is the pain points in this industry? What is the problem to solve? And so, from a very early day, we've always been a consumer facing business. We've always been a consumer driven business. And so I think a lot of the best businesses that are built these days come out of fulfilling some kind of void in the consumer space and solving a problem. And I felt as though that there was kind of a deviation away from the original quick lube model, and that was problematic. So I was able to test the model out in Harrisburg. We had success. I opened a second store in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, which is a town of 6,000 people, and we had success again. So it kind of validated the model. And then the third store was in Chicago, which is about 800 miles or a 14-hour drive from where I live. And so that really validated the model for me. And it also created it essentially, very early in the company, woven into the DNA of the business was semi-absentee ownership, if not fully absentee. I mean, I went to those first few years, we had the Chicago store. I was probably flying out there once a month, and in the very first beginning, probably twice a month. But I haven't had to go out to that store. It's been on cruise control, and it's done really well. So we've been able to put processes in place, third-party softwares, standard operating procedures, things that have been able to put the managers in a position to make sure the store is running. And that kind of led to opening more stores. I got to the point where I felt that the industry was kind of moving away from what I think is what the consumer wants, which is the quick oil change. I think all the best startups that are happening these days have to do with convenience. And so the quick lube industry was kind of before its time when it comes to that, because at the end of the day, we are a convenience play. We charge a premium for our service over the other auto shops that use oil changes as a loss leader. And so in order to command that premium, we have to have a value prop, and that value prop is the convenience. And so, we're essentially selling people their time back. And we got to the point where building these quick lube facilities got so expensive that you get priced out of being able to only do convenience services. And I thought that was a huge problem. And so we solved that problem by creating a more compact, more streamlined version of this business. Not only the building, but the SKUs itself, the overall macro view of the business model, and the staffing model as well. So we teamed up with Fran Devco, Michael, Kristen, all those people, Chris and Sung and Chuck, and they have a wealth of experience in franchising. I've never been involved in a franchise before. I've never worked for a franchise before. So I was new to it when we started a year ago, almost to the day. And we've had a lot of success because the model resonates, because I think people agree that the oil change only as a service is still, what the majority of people want. Last thing I'll add, we'll go right into Q&A. I've got a hard stop at 11, which I don't think should be an issue today. But I think there's going to be some version of our business left behind when electric vehicles penetrate the market more. And I think our version of the business is going to be what survives. I don't think that it's sustainable for these quick lube buildings to continue to go up at such a fast clip, for $2 million, $1.2 million, $1.5 million. It almost inevitably leads to the business evolving into something other than a quick lube business in order to even just pay the mortgage or pay the investor. At the end of the day, some of these quick lube companies have become more of a real estate business than a quick lube business, where they're putting up the building for $1 million and then they're reselling it with a net operating income of $150,000 to some 6-cap investor. And that puts a lot of downward pressure on the operator if you have $150,000 annual rent. And so we don't want that. We want our annual rent to be lowest in industry, so that we're not having to worry about selling other services in order to meet the numbers. And so that's where we're at. We just passed a year of selling franchises. We have released our 2022 FDD, and we're excited about the future because we have stores that will be opening essentially on a regular basis for the remainder of the year. And I'll let Michael curate questions. I apologize if I look like I'm looking all over the place. I got dual monitors and I've got stuff incoming at all times. So I'm trying to watch the camera, but also have my eye on other things as well.
Well, it's nice to see you on the camera today. Yeah, I did. While you were away, Costa, I talked about the growth and where we are in terms of the number of franchisees, and congratulations on Mesa opening up last week. I believe it was a very successful opening. Yeah, let's maybe just go backwards and forwards. You come up left on my screen, so why don't you go ahead and ask a question if you have one, and then we'll move over to Ron and we can move backwards and forwards until 11 o'clock.
Okay, I'll just start with the lease option. What does that look like, the terms of that? And we'll start there. And is that do you see if franchisees going that way, or are they looking to purchase the land themselves?
It's been a split. We have 75 territories sold. I think it's a combined 35 franchisees, and it's been a pretty good split. Our Mesa store that opened was a conversion, and their rent is $2,700 a month. A shopping center landlord owned the out parcel and owned the building. If you go through our program and you use our easy lease back finance team to construct the building, to lease the ground, we're traditionally looking for ground leases between $1,500 a month and $2,500 a month. the lower the better, obviously. And we've been able, corporately, we've been able to find ground leases as low as $800 a month.
Okay.
The building itself, if you do a single bay, the cost is pegged at $300,000, and that's basically a $200,000 building with $100,000 allowance for the Michael, what's the term? I can't believe I'm blanking on it. I talk about it on a daily basis. The site development.
Yeah.
So like your curbage, your greenage, if the town makes you plant trees, if they make you do certain things. And so that number could be plus minus. The investors who finance the construction of the building are pegging a 10% markup. So just to use 300,000 as an easy number, multiply that times 0.1 and you get $30,000 and then divide that by 12. So your rent would be $2,500 a month. One thing just, and I have no problem answering these questions, but since I do put this out there on our YouTube channel, I do want to try to keep the questions as macro as possible because we have Discovery Day. We have a Discovery Day actually coming up. And so try not to get into the secret sauce as much as possible publicly. Sure. We try to filter people into the Discovery Day. But that's not really proprietary stuff, but that is the.
Well, may I ask one more question? And you mentioned that you went to a small town of, I'm in New Orleans, but we have a lot of peripheral towns where the land would be certainly cheaper than New Orleans. Real estate has gone skyrocketed here in this market. But there's a lot of towns around it that are, a lot smaller. And you mentioned your second store was in a town of 6,000 people, which is interesting. What guidance do you lean people a certain direction, or are you looking for the demographic of X amount of people to make it work to start?
We have set a standard of 3 mile radius, 50,000 people, which excludes a lot of places, but we have in the past made concessions based on this, just meeting the person. We have a franchisee who just signed a ground lease in a town called Paynesville, Ohio. I'm going to look up Paynesville right now. Paynesville is 20,000 people, right? So we can make exceptions based on the operator itself. Because I've had success, like our largest and most successful town is Harrisburg, and that's 48,000 people. Okay. And the Harrisburg store, if you look on our 2022 FDD, put out over 600,000 in revenue, and that's in a town of 48,000 people. And Michael, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think I don't have the exact number for Harrisburg, but they're not even 50,000 people. So almost every single franchise territory that we're selling is in a test area that is larger than our largest market.
Okay. All right.
We actually, in some of the territories, I think, Ron, I showed you a couple of weeks ago, we've got even more than 50,000. And then if we don't have 50,000 in that 3 mile radius, we'll move it up to 4 and 5 miles if we need to.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, in the territories that we were looking at, I'm in New Jersey. You can get 50,000 people in a 3-block radius in some places.
Yeah.
So, we're all on top of each other here. My question is, more on the operational side, getting up and running. What do you see as the most challenging piece, in a new market, a new store? What is the biggest challenge, to getting cars in the door and growing the business? What do you see as that biggest challenge? And second part of that is, how do you plan for that, to get it up to speed as quickly as possible?
That's a great question. Before I go into that, what part of New Jersey are you?
Ocean County. So the territories I think were Toms River, Brick, Lakewood, and Barnegat.
I keep a ping on quick lube buildings that are existing because there's not a huge inventory of them. And I actually had a conversation with a New Jersey broker the other day who reached out to me because there's a quick lube in New Jersey that just went up for sale for incredibly cheap given the New Jersey market, which is one of the more expensive markets. It's in Edgewater Park, New Jersey, Route 130. But in any case, I have a feeling it's going to get scooped up pretty quickly because it's priced really cheap for New Jersey. In any case, your question is a valid one because we are an emerging brand. We have no real national presence outside of the private label products that we sell online. And so we have what I think is a pretty robust marketing strategy. We have a comprehensive marketing plan. Our Mesa store is on the other side of the country, and we just had their grand opening. We have a very extensive grand opening plan that we believe if you follow these steps, 120 days, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, 2 weeks, etc., that you will have a successful grand opening, which then parlays into future media opportunities, which then parlays into future car counts. So, Mesa did 40 cars on their first day, which was last Friday, followed up by 31 cars on Saturday. And so the key is to take the success of that grand opening and then make sure that that is utilized for future growth. And so, we use a little bit of Google AdWords. We have a very, our corporate website is created in a way that allows us to place addresses in regions and have immediate crawling, web crawling. And so you'll get placed on search engines organically very quickly through the corporate website. And then on top of that, we're just very aggressive with Facebook and Instagram ads, which to this day, even with the iOS 14 update, are still dollar for dollar, penny for penny, pound for pound, the best way to do marketing. There's really three ways to market. You have storytelling, where you're just trying to build the brand, you're trying to connect with the customers. You have marketing itself, which is more of a putting out there to the world what you do and not really the storytelling side of it. And then there's right hook advertising, which is when you're utilizing discounting or you're utilizing different methods of getting someone to come into the store. So at the end of the day, internal combustion engines are obviously such an established product in the country that everybody who comes through your doors, unless they're a 16-year-old kid, they're firing their previous oil change person to come to you. There's not, that being said, an interesting fact that I found out recently is that as the generations age up, my grandfather's generation was a lot more of do it myself. Our industry is typically categorized into do it for me and do it myself. And so like in the car manual of a 1960 Buick, there might be instructions on how to change the valve timing, right? And in a 2022 vehicle, the car manual instructs you not to eat the battery, like not to touch the battery. Like that's where things have gone. And so as the millennials age up and are responsible for their own maintenance, whereas our grandfather or even my father might have done an oil change in the driveway himself, an interesting statistic I found out recently is the do it for me segment of the market is outpacing the sale of electric vehicles. So even though the total number of internal combustion engines might come down from 270 million, if the rate of people who are now having their oil change done for them outpaces the sale of electric vehicles, then our industry will continue to see growth for the foreseeable future. And that's going to be, especially as Gen Z becomes 25. Like when I do my advertising on Facebook, I target 25 and up. I don't even bother with anyone under 25 because they're either having their parents do their maintenance for them or, they just don't do their maintenance. And so, we're pretty strategic about how we engage with potential customers and get them in the doors. And we have a lot of success there. because we are an emerging brand and don't have the, we're not Valvoline Instant Oil Change where you pop up in New Jersey and everybody's like, okay, I'll go there because I already know them.
Interesting. That Costa, that's very interesting. You mentioned the age group of 25. I think about my son who's 18. I take care of his car for him right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And think about what your responsibilities were as an 18-year-old. For people who are fortunate enough to know their parent at the age that they currently are, like it's dramatically different. Like I've seen pictures of my dad, in a suit at 25, and he just looked like, I don't know, it just looks like people are aging down. Like my peers just sometimes feel like they're stuck in their low 20s in terms of the way they present themselves and act sometimes.
I did my when I was 17, 18, I did my oil change in my driveway with the two red ramps. I drove up and crawled under there and was praying that the ramp didn't collapse and crush me.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I'll jump in with another question that kind of touches on the opening, and also you touched on it as well in your opening comments about the staffing and not having to worry about where if you lost somebody, a key person, the operation keeps moving. Can you talk a little bit about finding the initial staff, what that process looks like, and then how have you been able to maintain a good staff with your operations?
Yeah, that's a key question, and it's what I think most business seeking owners are concerned about these days, because the big news is the Great Resignation and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so I've been fortunate, and our industry is fortunate, because at a very base level, people who work for us have a interest in the subject matter, right? So it's not like they're a line cook. It's not like they're general labor. It's not like they're on the flagger force where, they're just doing it as a job. Like a lot of the guys that work for me, they have an interest in cars, and that creates a little bit of stickiness there itself. The cliche answer is culture. And if you come to Discovery Day, we talk about the culture quite a bit, but we did not have nearly as much turnover as some of our peers do. And we don't pay, we're not as competitive as, say, a Valvoline. We're in line with Take Fives. We're in line with Jiffy Lube. We pay enough to make them show up to the interview, but we're not out there having to overpay just to get people to show up. And so our actual business model, for those who are in the industry already, understand that we're not putting top-down pressure on our staffers to sell things. We're not putting top-down pressure on them to be unethical and, put their finger in the power steering fluid and hold it up to grandma's face and say, you need a power steering fluid flush, and she has no idea what she's looking at. I've inherited guys from previous places that are, were just trained to do very unethical things, and it bothered them. And they were also always looking over their shoulder, because if they didn't sell enough air filters, they, might not have had their job. And so by creating a culture of, one, knowing exactly where you stand, two, just taking the time to figure out the employees' wants and needs. I have 58 employees now, and that's still not so much that I can't reach out to these guys on an individual basis, on a regular basis, and find out, what it is that makes them tick. The example I like to give, I have a manager in Pittsburgh who has been with me for now 6 years, going on 7. And, I could give him a $200 Amazon gift card for Christmas every year, but I know that him and his wife are the biggest Pittsburgh Penguins fans in the world. I get them tickets twice a year to go to the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's going to endear him to me much more than some kind of financial bonus, an Amazon gift card, things like that. Like he's going to want to stick around. And so for some guys, it's job security. For some guys, it's flexibility. For some guys, it's compensation. Like there's definitely people out there that will leave you for a 25-cent raise from the next place.
What about the onboarding process, getting the initial team? how do you all
So
help in that process to guide based on your experiences with this business?
Yeah, so recruiting wise, we still heavily use Facebook. We do use Indeed for the manager. The manager at the end of the day is a key component of this, and staff continuity is a key component of this. We don't necessarily need someone to have automotive experience right off the bat because it can be trained. We have processes in place that give them all the information that they need to do the job right. Because at the end of the day, the lube technician on the hierarchy of automotive is probably the second lowest rung right above detailers. So the work itself is not complicated. And when we're not doing anything else, when we're not having to do tires or brakes or anything, we're not having to go out and seek out people with mechanic certifications or someone who might have to pay a little bit extra because they have other experience. So when you're doing oil changes only, I look for people, and very tactically speaking, to answer your question, we'll run Facebook ads to find people based on previous employer, based on, a myriad of factors. And so we can target it so that we have qualified candidates coming in. We have a guide for that. I've done videos that we post on our intranet, our internal website for the franchisees on how to use Facebook to recruit candidates. Facebook also gives you the ability to take a peek into their profile and just see what kind of person they are, for better or for worse, whatever some people's opinions are on it. If I go on someone's profile and they're flipping off the camera or they're doing this or that, I'm a human being. I'm going to have my own judgments on what kind of person I want inside my store. And so, I'm able to take a peek into how they act, and that's a pretty good indicator of how they're going to act with the customers. And at the end of the day, this is, I tell my guys, we are a retail business first, automotive second. And so we need to hire people who have the ability to look a person in the eye and carry a conversation. That's much more important to me. So that gives us a little bit more flexibility on finding that initial staff. Our manager that we helped the Mesa franchisee find, I personally took that task on and helped him out. He ultimately did the interviews and did the hiring. But I assisted with the funneling of candidates to him. That's not something I can do sustainably for in the future, because we're going to have stores opening up left and right as this year goes on. But the methods of finding people, we've had a lot of success with. Last point on that, I really do I did have a hard stop at 11, but I can push it. Michael, I've got an interview with the National Oil and Lube magazine, so I got to see if she's joined the Zoom call. But last point, it will on the hiring part is we have processes for basically everything to help assist in finding those people, whether through Indeed or through Facebook. And it is the most important part. I would say continuity of staff is so important. So you want to get it right.
Yep.
Someone doesn't want to show up to an oil change place and see a different face every single time they get an oil change. These people are coming in basically once every 3 months. And if they see a different person, that doesn't lend to credibility. So it is one of the most important parts of this process.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can, is Matt on the call, Costa? Matt?
It's not Matt. They just hired a, what's her name? Hannah Bubser. I haven't talked to her yet. They just brought her on. I think she's just a beat writer for them.
I don't know if Kristen has sent you this report yet. I don't send it to everyone, but I believe I sent it to you yesterday, Ron, that yes. NOLN have a fabulous operator report that they put out every year with a ton of data on metrics. And if you decide to continue through the process, we have a blank pro forma, and it helps to fill that out. So
very good.
She has not joined the Zoom yet, so I can stay on probably another 5 minutes.
Okay.
If anyone has any other questions.
Yeah, I had kind of another question regarding the marketing piece. Do you offer anything like, say, kind of like some of the car washes do, where you sign up for, X amount for a certain price? In other words, if, someone is every 3 months, do you say, okay, if you sign up for the year, you get, percentage, a discount, kind of creating that customer loyalty through discount?
Subscription
something Yeah.
models have never really worked in the quick lube space because the year, make, model, and engine size variables are in the thousands, especially with some of the foreign makes.
Mm.
You could have a Volkswagen Jetta that has 3 different engines, and those 3 different engines could have 3 different filters and 3 different quantities of oil,
Gotcha.
which then would impact what they're charged. I will say we have done loyalty. We've done physical paper loyalty cards, which I prefer over the digital ones. The digital ones are set in stone and they're kind of a pain in the butt. They're expensive. We literally have little cards. I have one right here. We hand it out, and what happens with these is the initial person gets it. They then hand it to their sister, they hand it to their brother, they hand it to their uncle, because they want to get the last punch, because we corporately give a free oil change on that last one.
Gotcha.
And even though that last oil change we might be giving for free, this has been passed around so many times, we've now gained new customers. And the name of this game is customer acquisition, because we believe we have a better mousetrap, and we believe our reviews indicate that we have a better mousetrap, and that when people come to us, our stickiness is incredible. Our return customer rates are higher than industry average. And so if all we got to do is work on getting, to your point, Ron, your questions, the biggest thing we can do is get them in the door. Because once we get them in the door, we show them that our people treat them kinder, the service is faster, better, less headaches. You don't have to come in prepared for battle. You're not going to have to fight off all these different things. And so once we have them, the lifelong value of that customer is immense. And then the other, this is kind of just a side note, the benefit of having a paper one is they get lost. You can't lose a digital one. And so, we tell them, if you find it, we'll double punch the new one, but if you lost it, there's nothing we can do. and they got to start over.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Definitely getting people in the door. That's, once you get in the door, then it's your job to keep them and coddle them and make them feel warm and fuzzy.
We cycle on and off of Groupon as well. That gets people in the door. You don't want to create this underbelly of your customer base that is reliant on services like that. If either of you have ever been in the food space, quick service restaurant, like love-hate relationship with DoorDash and those places, because they'll drive business to you, but it's not always the customer that you want. But when you're in a volume business, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. But and I tell my guys, it's my job to get people in the door. It's your job to get them to come back. I can drive people in the door through Facebook ads, through different actual tactics. I can put people in the door all day, but if you don't have the right people and they're not doing the process the right way, all that does is expose more people to not want to come to you faster. And so it's important to have those people, the right people in there to start. Otherwise, there's no reason to drive customers in. And, I love it when my guys are like, they feel ready to they're like, hey, pour it on. Because it's very easy using different marketing methods to get people in the door. It's just a matter of, one, having the patience to get the return trip, right? 9 months, you have people coming in basically overlapping on their oil change intervals. And that's when you see the exponential nature of this business really start to take off, is at month 9. The example we use, Michael, over the last year has heard it at least a couple thousand times, but Chick-fil-A opens up, someone eats there on a Monday, they can eat there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You have instant positive cash flow. We open up, every car that comes through our door, that car is not coming back for another 3 months. So it's really not until month 9 where you start seeing, things start to really overlap. But then once you get to that point where you have your baseline of customers, then it's very reliable. It's very easy to do projections. It's a lot better for business. It's good cash flow. And then when you have an incident or a pandemic where, something like COVID happens, it's easier to sustain that, or it's easier to ride that wave when you have that core group of customers. I like to refer to it as a barbershop, where when you find someone who cuts your hair the way you like it, you keep going back to that person until they give you a reason to try somewhere else. And so oil change customers really only try someone else for one of 3 reasons: atmosphere, experience, and price. Atmosphere, we have clean facilities, we have beautiful facilities, and we have a service that creates, a place of warmth, and the employees are going to greet you and they're going to look you in the eye. Experience, that goes along with it in terms of, you want your employees to engage with the customer. I train my employees to take a peek inside the customer's car, try to engage on a personal level. I see you have a hockey bag in the back seat. Do you play in a men's league? Just connect with them at some level. And then the third thing is price, right? Those are the 3 things that people will abandon their oil change provider for: is atmosphere, experience, and price. And, price is simple, right? Discounting gets people in the door. You don't want to, make them rely on it. But once you show the value that you provide, they'll be more than willing to come back for that experience. There's no shortage of people that come to our shops that have 5 free oil changes from the dealership that just would rather come to us and pay than have to deal with the hassle of the dealership experience.
Quick, easy. If you gotta jump, you can
Yeah,
jump.
I do have to jump because the reporter just hopped on the Zoom call. But what'd you have on your mind?
Oh, just an easy one. Does the marketing, do you all go through your agency, or do we find a local agency?
So we have a unaudited 2% ad spend that is your discretion. We have a partner that we deal with that views things the way that we view things.
That's why
But there's no mandatory requirement to use them. You can take the bull by the horns and just use our marketing manual yourself if you have someone savvy enough to handle it. Otherwise, it's very market driven. There are some markets where direct mailers still work. There's some places where they go straight into the trash. So it is market driven, but we don't mandate who you use. We are offering customer reputation management services for a monthly fee, where we will respond to customers on Facebook, on Google, and take care of that. That's something that's new for 2022, where our back office social media department will handle franchisees' customer reputation management, because that is an important aspect of it. But we're not going to run the ads. We can give you the copy. So, like, for example, the Mesa franchisee, now that the grand opening's over, I offered that's tough to see with the light, but I made the ad for them and provided the copy, said these are words that have worked in the past. This is a structure of a post that has worked in the past. Facebook only gives you a couple of lines to grab someone's attention. So the picture itself is important. The copy is important. So I provided, what works. It's kind of tough to see, but like,
Sure.
We can provide that stuff, but we're not going to, we're not getting into the ad agency business. We're not going to do it on anyone's behalf.
Gotcha.
But we have partners that know what we like.
Understood. Thank you.
All right. I really got to hop.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Costa. Bye, Ron. We'll speak soon.
Okay.